The Alaska Native Art Auction Gala is March 21st, 2026 in Anchorage, Alaska. Donate artwork by February 27th, 2026 and be eligible to win $500. Help sustain Indigenous-led media, including National Native News. Donor forms and details are found at knba.org.
Welcome to Native America Calling. I'm Sean Spruce. The Fort Sill Apache tribe just completed the process to officially change their name to better reflect their ties to their homelands in New Mexico. They're among tribes to either officially or unofficially make changes to better reflect identity or to correct misnomers and demeaning terms. Name changes are a big deal and can even divide communities. We'll talk more about what it takes to change the name of a tribe after the news.
This is National Native News. I'm Antonia Gonzalez. The Chandler Museum in Arizona has a new exhibit called Being Eddie Basha. It's a retrospective of the hometown-turned-statewide grocer who died in 2013. KJZZ's Gabriel Pietrazio reports.
Chandler Museum's storytelling coordinator, Sarah Biggerstaff, literally leaned on Basha's own words for one interactive display.
This is our telephone. There's about 20 clips, and they range from like 20 seconds to a minute. You can pick it up, give it a couple seconds, but then you hear him actually speaking. And at our opening, it was really moving.
I would want my epitaph to say, Eddie Basha, he was a good man but a bad boy, and that's how I want to be remembered.
Another one of his principles was putting people over profits. The great-grandson of Lebanese immigrants brought his family brand to tribal lands, beginning in 1981 with the Diné supermarket in Chinle. Basha even committed 25 cents of every dollar to the Navajo Nation.
And of course, the relationship with the Navajo became extremely powerful and fruitful and still exists today.
From Tuba City to Window Rock, stores kept popping up. More locations would follow on Apache land in Parada and White River. The one-time gubernatorial candidate was also an avid collector of Western and American Indian art. For National Native News, I'm Gabriel Pietrazio.
Athletes, coaches, and spectators crowded Main Street in downtown Whitehorse Saturday for the closing ceremonies of the Arctic Winter Games, also known as the Olympics of the North. And Team Alaska had a lot to celebrate. Among the 6 Arctic nations, it led the Ulu Count medal shaped like curved knives, emblematic of Arctic life. Alaska had 227 Ulus, followed by Team Yukon with 174, and Alberta North with 127. As KNBA's Rhonda McBride tells us, Parker Kennick of Nome took home 3 gold Ulus and many lessons about life.
Parker Kennick started learning traditional Alaska Native games when he was 8, but didn't take part in the Arctic Winter Games until later in life. This year, he competed in the adult category and won gold Ulus in the 2-foot high kick, the Alaskan high kick, and the one-hand reach. Kennick says he's grateful for community support that made it possible for him to travel to the games.
Our spirits get lifted here because there's so many people that want to see us do our best to our absolute limit.
Kennick competed in his first Arctic Winter Games in 2023 and says he was lucky to be mentored by some of the best Indigenous athletes in the world. But now he's returning the favor. One of his coaches, Candace Parker, says when Kennick first started out, he was quiet and kept to himself. But today, he readily volunteers to coach the younger athletes.
I would say full circle moment for him to be out on the floor, passing on the knowledge and encouraging the athletes. May not have been technical, but doing more encouraging.
Parker says young people can be self-absorbed, but the games teach them to think beyond themselves. She says it's an important exercise in humility, one that athletes like Kennick have embraced. Parker has been coaching since 1996 and says this year she reached an important milestone, having 3 generations of her family compete in this year's Arctic Winter Games. In Anchorage, I'm Rhonda McBride.
And I'm Antonia Gonzalez.
National Native News is produced by Kawanak Broadcast Corporation with funding by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
Support by the Gathering of Nations Powwow. The last dance is this April 24th and 25th at Expo, New Mexico. Gone's last horse rider and regalia parade takes place at 4 p.m. both days. Tickets at gatheringofnations.com and at the gates.
Support by the American Indian College Fund, providing millions of dollars of scholarships to Native students every year. Applications are accepted through May 31st at collegefund.org or by phone at 800-766-FUND.
Native Voice One, the Native American Radio Network.
This is Native America Calling. I'm Sean Spruce. Over the years, some tribes have undertaken the tedious process to change their official names to reflect their current identity, culture, and status. The Fort Sill Apache tribe just changed their name to better represent their homeland. Some tribes change how they present their name to the public without updating the official record. And some tribes have talked about a name change but found that it divided their citizens or didn't want to go through the expense and confusion. Today we'll talk more about what's in a tribe's name, and listeners can join us. How has your tribe changed its name? Is your tribe thinking about changing its name? Is there perhaps a name that better reflects who your people are or what your tribe represents? Let us know. You can call us at 1-800-996-2848. That is also 1-800-99-NATIVE. Joining us now while traveling in New Mexico is Jennifer Himenoki. She is the chairwoman of the Fort Sill Chiricahua Warm Springs Apache Tribe. Chairwoman, welcome to Native America Calling. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Joining us from near Sells, Arizona, we have Vivian Juan Saunders. She's a former chairwoman of the Tohono O'odham Nation. Vivian, good morning and welcome to Native America Calling.
Thank you for having me.
Joining us from St. Michael's, Arizona is Jonathan Hale. He is the former chairman of the Navajo Nation Council Health, Education, and Human Services Committee. Jonathan, welcome to the show, and please feel free to further introduce yourself to our listeners.
Thank you. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, my citizens. My name is Jonathan Hale. Good morning to each and every one of you.
Thank you, Jonathan. And also, we have a fourth guest on the show from Okmulgee, Oklahoma, Jason Salzman. He is the press secretary for the Muskogee Nation, and he is Muskogee. Jason, welcome back to the show.
It's Jay, Mado, Jason Salzman, Choho Chif Godos. It's great to be back on the show, and I'm very honored to be on, along with tribal leadership from the respective tribes, especially Indigenous women in leadership roles. I love it, and glad to be here for the conversation.
Absolutely. And let's go ahead and start the conversation with one of our Indigenous women leaders on the show today, Jennifer Himenoki. Chairwoman, Chiricahua and Warm Springs, these words were recently added to the name of your tribe. What's the significance?
So the significance of the Chiricahua and Warm Springs names are a couple of the names of our Apache bands that comprises of our tribal members, which were the sole successors of the Chiricahua Warm Springs Apache tribes. So adding that to the name kind of captures more of our historical roots and helps us, with recognizing our culture and from where we are from as well. The reason Fort Sill is, I don't know if you know the whole history of the tribe is the imprisonment at Fort Sill Army Base for 28 years. and the release, it was a matter of survival for us to take the name. Now, people recognize us as Fort Sill, and keeping that was kind of more of a way to be recognizable in the public, that we're not a brand new tribe. We've existed. We've been here, since time immemorial with Fort Sill, Chiricahua, Warm Springs.
Got it.
Apache.
Mm-hmm. How much information is available for how the tribe originally got its name?
So there's several sources. So the information, we are building a cultural center to help with that, the information that's out in the public right now, because a lot of books and materials that are out there are written by somebody else, not us. And so they tend to be less factual and more assumptions and, not full truths. So we are working on trying to help us, get that word out and make sure that people know that we are here and we never left. And that's just part of the struggle. It's, it's a long-term struggle that we've been working with for decades.
Chairwoman, what about the word Apache? It has its own unresolved origin, and it isn't a name from your own language. Have there been any discussions about exploring other options from using that word Apache?
No, actually, I never heard of any other Apache tribes dropping the name Apache from theirs, so we never really considered it.
Tell me more about the process for officially changing the name, and what types of support and maybe even objections did you encounter along the way?
Okay, so the process for our tribe was we would have a general council meeting. So our general council makes up the membership of the tribe, and then once it is presented on the floor that there's a constitutional change that they are requesting, it would go through the Bureau of Indian Affairs for a secretarial election. Once it's approved through the general council election, then it goes to the secretarial election, and it becomes official once that it passes through a secretarial election. And then we wait for the process of it going through and being published in the Federal Register. So it's been done since 2023, and it just now was published this year in January.
And were there some people who were opposed to the name change?
Well, there's always a few people that are opposed to it because it's really long. They like the Fort Sill, the shortness, but we wanted to reflect more of where we're from, only because we do have a lot of groups that are consulted with that are not us, and they get confused because of the Chiricahua Warm Springs language, that they think that they're consulting with other tribes, and we're not, whenever we hear about it, they're like, oh, well, we consulted with the Chiricahua Apaches. I'm like, no, you did not. You didn't consult with us. We are the Chiricahua Apaches. So it's kind of like a way to capture that name and trying to remind everybody that there isn't another Chiricahua Apache.
Okay. Yeah, that confusion, I imagine that would get really, really frustrating after a while. Now, federal name changes, are they automatically changed in the register for tribes that are also state recognized?
No, I don't believe so. I don't believe that anything is published in the Federal Register on state recognized tribes.
One concern that came up when we were researching this show is the cost that can be equated with having to change the name of a tribe, rebranding perhaps. Have you run into any expenses or other hurdles just logistically that are going to have to be taken care of in order for this to all this transition to occur seamlessly?
Oh yeah, there's definitely costs associated with it. Communication costs, press releases, different appearances, different activity from our tribal leadership, attending different meetings, being more present, just getting everybody used to, making sure that everybody recognizes that we are the same tribe. We're just updating our names.
All right.
So there is a lot of cost associated with that as well.
Oh.
So
I would imagine, yeah. Chairwoman, thank you for taking the time. I know you're traveling, you're busy today, but appreciate you coming on the show and bringing our listeners up to date. Thank you so much.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. 1-800-996-2848. Listeners can join this conversation. Maybe your tribe is in the process of changing its name. We'd like to hear from you. Give us your feedback. Give us your insights. Our next guest, Vivian Juan Saunders, former chairwoman of the Tohono O'odham Nation. And Vivian, Tohono O'odham, that was not always the official name of your tribal nation. What can you tell us about the previous name, Papago?
The term Papago is a derogatory description of our people that was given to us by the Spanish. And the Spanish were the first colonizers in this area, and it referred to our people as bean eaters. And as you know, the federal government went through a process of creating the Indian Reorganization Act, which was a cookie-cutter approach to organizing tribes that some tribes accepted and some did not. And for our people, the Constitution and bylaws of the Papago tribe was ratified and became effective on June 18, 1937. And since that time, our tribal leaders were already in the process of amending the Constitution. And it was the leadership of the then Papago Council who had discussions about the name change from Papago to Tohono O'odham Nation. And I'd like to just credit the former Chukutcook legislative representative and a member of the Constitution Committee, Rosemary Lopez, who, along with the committee, presented to the Papago Tribal Council on April 5th, 1984, a final draft of a proposed constitution. And the leadership had a very in-depth discussion about the name change. And they took a position that it would be in the best interest of the people and the tribe as a sovereign nation to choose what name it would call itself. And according to Rosemary Lopez, a tribal member asked, why do we call ourselves Papago? When we speak to each other in our own language, we say O'odham, not Papago. O'odham translates to the people. And there was discussion about our sister tribes, the Salt River Pima, known as the O'odham, the Hale River Pima, Godi O'odham, and the Auxin O'odham. Okay. And our sister tribes called us the Tohono O'odham, which is the desert people.
Vivian, we're going to take a short break. We'll come back and we'll talk more about the name change of your people. And wow, that goes back a long ways, 1984, the initial proposal. Stay with us, folks. We'll be right back. Native reenactors take themselves and audiences back through history with live-action portrayals that include historically accurate language and dress. They're also part of efforts to show Native American roles in the time of the Revolutionary War. We'll hear from reenactors about how they approach their craft on the next Native America Calling.
Join us for the 30th Annual Alaska Native Art Auction, presented by Kowanik Broadcast Corporation on Saturday, March 21st at the Hotel Captain Cook in Anchorage. Enjoy an evening featuring a hosted dinner, an indigenous fashion show, and live music, bringing community members and leaders together to elevate Native artists and voices. Get your tickets or become a sponsor today at knba.org. That's knba.org.
We're glad you're with us today on Native America Calling. We're talking about tribal name changes. Has your tribe, your Native nation, changed its name? Or do you or members of your tribe refer to yourselves by a name other than what's listed on the Federal Register? Join the conversation. 1-800-996-2848. 2848. Let us know your thoughts with regard to a tribe changing its name. What types of challenges or opportunities does that present? Let's get some calls going. Again, the number 1-800-996-2848. We have Vivian Juan Saunders on the line, one of our guests today. She's a former chairwoman of the Tohono Nation. And Vivian, before break, you shared that this initial proposal dates back to April of 1984. So this was decades in the making to ultimately change the name from Papago. Tell us a little bit more about just what went into that process and what the response was from community members when this change was made.
Well, two years later, in 1986, the whole Constitution went to a vote of the people, and it was approved to the Constitution of the Tohono Nation. And it's been 40 years since the people voted on this name change. And it was the leadership of the then Papago Council who had a very lengthy discussion. And, of course, the people voted, and that's what we're known as today in writing, but historically that's what we've always called ourselves. And so that's important, and it's important for the youth to understand the history of the name change because it is about our sovereignty and the right to call ourselves what we want to call ourselves and not what others want to call us, especially if it's a derogatory term.
Mm-hmm. And as you described earlier, the translation of the word Papago is certainly one that I think many folks would consider derogatory. Vivian, so this is interesting. I went to Haskell and I was there in the late 1980s, early 1990s, and there were a number of the Tohono students there, but they were still using, as I recall, they were still using the name Papago at the time. Was there a little bit of a delay in some of the transition and everybody in the community adopting the new name, or the original name, I should say?
Yes, it took some time to transition from using Papago to Tohono in ourselves, but also officially in documents being processed on behalf of the tribe. And so it did take some time to transition. I think one of the concerns back in 1984 was the pronunciation of Tohono, whether non-tribal members will be able to pronounce the name. And today I still hear non-tribal members refer to us as T.O. They can't pronounce Tohono, and many of us correct them to inform them that there is no such thing as T.O. people. It's Tohono, and try to correct the pronunciation because it's so important to share and to educate others about the history of our own historical name for our people.
And Vivian, this name, the Tohono Nation, tell me more about how it represents your culture, your language, and also your history.
It's based on our native language, and Tohono desert people, we live in a very harsh environment, a very hot environment. In the summertime, the temperatures are now ranging in 110, 116 degrees, but we're still here. And historically and today, revitalizing our food sovereignty with the desert foods and the nutritious food source in the desert, the municipal government surrounding us, are interested in who we are, but we want to maintain some of our own internal knowledge, especially as it pertains to medicinal use of our native plants and the importance of living a healthy lifestyle based on what we've traditionally grown and what comes from the desert source, not just the plant life, but the wildlife as well.
Mm-hmm. Vivian, I think that so many tribes, so many Native nations currently are having these discussions. They've either made name changes, or they're thinking about name changes, or they have certain groups within the community that really think the name should be changed. What's your advice, or what sort of guidance could you offer someone who's listening to the show right now and they're thinking, geez, we should change our name. We have a traditional word that better represents who we are as our people. We need to make a change. What do you tell that person?
Many discussions focus on sovereignty and whether we have full sovereignty or not. But what we can change is our own name and what we call ourselves. And it dwells back into our history, our culture, our traditions, and our survival. And it's so important to speak to our elders, speak to our knowledge keepers today about what it really means to be O'odham, to be the people. And many tribes throughout the country that I've come across, their name translation, traditional name, means the people. And that's who we are. And we're never going to go away. We've proven that over time. And it's not just about a name. It's about our history. It's about our culture and our traditions and our language and our survival.
Vivian, thank you for coming on the show. Please stay on the line with us. We'll have more questions, more insights to share. The number 1-800-996-2848. The phone lines are open right now for listeners who would like to join this conversation. And I know a lot of the communities that are listening to the show right now, communities where our show airs, you're having these conversations. You're discussing these issues. You're concerned about the name of your tribe. You're thinking about maybe changing it, or maybe you've already changed it. Let us know how that's gone for you folks. 1-800-99-NATIVE. That is the number to join today's conversation. Let's bring Jonathan Hale into the conversation now. He is Diné, and he is the former chairman of the Navajo Nation Council Health, Education, and Human Services Committee. And Jonathan, Navajo is not a name that comes from your language, and you proposed a name change to Diné Nation. What was behind that effort?
Thank you again. Good morning. Well, that change came from, as it was stated, our culture, our roots. So one weekend I was at a ceremony, and this elderly brought that up to me, elderly woman. My grandkids are having confusion of who they are, and that question came up. We talk about the Neta, we talk about the Nebazad, but looking back at our own government, it says two things. It's recognized by that name, but yet it speaks this other term, this other acknowledgement, the Ne. So here in this ceremony, we talk about the Ne, our way of life, our language, in our prayers, where we come from, but the government doesn't seem to recognize that. So then I said, okay, well, let's try it. We won't know until we try it. So let's see how far this will go. What other challenges might come across our plate when it comes to this? Because she also mentioned my grandchildren. See, that was the impetus, is that history as far as that's concerned and how it relates back to our own homesteads, our fireplaces, going forward, our children, because all this is talked about as far as who we are, where we come from, what we went through, but how are we supposed to teach that to our children when this particular situation still exists? Yeah.
And Jonathan, to help better frame this conversation for our listeners, what is the origin of the name Navajo?
From, reading historical information, there was a Spaniard, that came here as well as it did to the Tohono O'odham. It was named Navajo at that point in time. They were being called Apache de Navajo. That was one. And then a Tiwa language that said Navajo. So then with all that influence, especially with the Spaniards being here, it picked up, I'm assuming. And with the settlement of the white settlers coming here and the confrontations that happened, I'm assuming that's how the name Navajo stuck. Like any other pronunciation here, shortcuts in regards to sound or dialect, it's a lot easier said in the English tongue than it is as my colleague there, the chairwoman for Tohono O'odham, had recognized. T-O, that's a shortcut. Mm-hmm. So over here, Navajo seemed to be what everybody was calling the Neh. So we'll just go with the Navajo. I can't pronounce it to utilizing their tongue, so we'll just do that. That's what I'm assuming. That's how it came to be, and that was a shortcut. And it's always stuck because, as it was referenced with the BIA, they came and looking at old historical pictures at the Navajo Nation Council chambers. This is what it is, and this is how we're going to incorporate it on these documentations moving forward. So, hence the name stuck.
Jonathan, the legislation that you wrote proposing the name change, how was it received when it went before Tribal Council?
Well, as it was stated earlier, finances, everything revolves around money, right? It's going to cost a lot. We're going to confuse people. My thinking is that I think that we've already been through that scenario. We've already had to assimilate ourselves in Western society when it comes to education. If it's from the homestead, if it's from the fireplace back at home, I think we should hold that reverent because that was the main, I think at that point in time, it was the main position. It's going to cost a lot and it's going to be confusing. That was predominantly it. And, I'm just thinking here, well, we have to instigate change. And that's what leadership is. That's what Nahat'ah is, putting stuff on there so we can talk it out. And hence the term Nabikiyati. So even that, I'm just kind of thinking, this is where our origin started. This is where all these pictures on our walls of back then, this is what they talked about, riding horses to the capital to talk about issues for the benefit of our people. Yeah. But that was their main reason, is that it's going to confuse, it's going to cost a lot of money.
Okay. Jonathan, I'm also curious to know how much of this is a generational issue, because I can tell you here on the show, and this is just anecdotally from my experience hosting Native America Calling, but it's very often when we have guests under the age of 40, they prefer to be referred to as Diné. And when we have guests over the age of 40, or my age, Gen X and up, it's Navajo. I find that interesting.
Yeah, I do come across that sometimes. And, I'm just kind of thinking and looking at my own palm here before me. I'm looking at the now here before me. I see it. But am I thinking way ahead? Am I thinking about my grandchildren? My grandchildren that will soon to be born, going forward, another year onward, 2026, 2027, 2028, in that era, I would want them to know who they are and where they're coming from and know their language and to understand it and to be recognized that way. Because when you leave the boundaries of our reservation here, people see us differently. So again, we say two things. And I guess that's where a lot of this new generation are kind of saying and asking that question, hey, wait a minute, who am I? How are people referencing me? How should I reference myself? And like I used to say when I was on council is we have the Nebazad, the Netha, the Net Policy Institute, we have the Net College. We have these references that relate back to the Net. But I look back at my letterhead right here that says the Navajo Nation Government. And I'm like, why is it like that? Why is it that we don't even recognize ourselves? And that's what the elderly lady said. Why is it that the politicians don't recognize that? They go by this other term rather than being who they are and true to themselves to say Diné. So,
Jonathan, the name change council voted down. They did not approve it to change officially to Diné, but any thoughts of reintroducing the legislation at a later date, or perhaps what do you think it would take ultimately to get the Navajo Nation to change its name officially to Diné?
I think at that time there was recommendations brought forth to say maybe we need to leave it to the will of the people. it needs to be a referendum. And I've told my previous predecessors that as well, and these new people that are running for the office in these positions, maybe we need to also go back down to this. It would be good, and as far as leadership is concerned, to show and recognize when we talk about youth, we're also talking about our language. We need to get these things in order. Introduce it, take it back to the people. Take it back to your local chapter houses, get that approved. Your Western Agency council meetings, get that approved. That's the usual systematic processes that it takes. Get it on the referendum, working with Navajo Election Administration. See, there's another term, Navajo election. Maybe it should be Diné Election Administration, something like that. Take it back to them, introduce it. Let's have a go at it again, because everything revolving around change takes money. But yet we're at that excuse of it's going to cost a lot of money. We do that every 4 years. A new tribal leadership gets elected, a new president, a new chairman, chairwoman. But yet, we don't say that to them. It's going to cost a lot of money to put your name on this letterhead, so we're just going to leave it off. No, they make it a point to change it. And yeah, it costs money, but we go through that all the time anyway. So what's a couple of hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars to change that letterhead when we could benefit future generations of our people to recognize who they are and to be proud Diné people? That's my position. But I echo that to leadership, people out there listening. This is for your grandchildren. This is for your grandbabies growing up. Self-identity, to know who you are and where you're coming from. Your grandmas, your grandpas, your nullies back then. How it is that they went through this enough way of life to get to here, to have you on this earth and to walk forward, carrying that clanship going forward. It's a good self-identity out there.
Okay.
That would be my echo.
All right. We're going to have to take a short break. We'll come back. We'll continue our conversation. I know we have a lot of listeners on the Navajo Nation. Give us a call. What do you prefer, Navajo or Diné? Phone number 1-800-996-2848. Share your thoughts. We'll bring Jason Salzman into the conversation. He is the press secretary for the Muskogee Nation. So stay with us. He'll be up next.
Support by the Gathering of Nations Powwow. The last dance is this April 24th and 25th at Expo, New Mexico. Gone's last horse rider and regalia parade takes place at 4 p.m. both days. Tickets at gatheringofnations.com and at the gates.
Kaufman & Associates is a Native-owned and led consulting firm supporting Native communities with culturally grounded solutions to shape Indigenous futures. More at kaufmaninc.com, KAUFFMANINC.com.
Thank you for tuning in today to Native America Calling. We're talking about what's in a name. It's no small feat for a tribe to officially change its name. Sometimes they're correcting misnomers or outdated terminology. Some tribes drop the word Indians and use the word nation instead. Just how does a single word in a tribe's name reflect identity, sovereignty, and resilience? That's the big question, and you can answer it. Give us a call, 1-800-996-2848. And we have a caller on the line right now. This is Mario, listening in Albuquerque, New Mexico on KUNM Radio. Hello, Mario. What's your comment?
Yeah, so the official moniker for the Navajo Nation is the Navajo Tribe of Indians. And so what needs to be said to the people today is that when you change that, you're ultimately going to change the dynamics between the United States and the Diné Nation. And ultimately, what can happen is that the doctrine of discovery, which says that we, the Indians, have occupancy to the land, it changes that to an international standard of self-determination of people becoming the nations that will be recognized by the United Nations. And so going forward, this is called the politics of recognition. There's a Diné scholar from Canada, British Columbia, Glenn Coussard, actually marks this. So what gets in the way is these politics of identity. It just gets in the way. And so treaties sometimes get in the way, land claims, they get in the way of the deep movement towards international self-determination, which ultimately means that we get back the title to the land. If we keep engaging as federal Indians in federal Indian policy, it keeps us down. So especially in the Eastern Navajo Agency of the Navajo Nation, you can't do nothing. You always have to get permission from the Secretary of Interior to do anything. And so that's the real power. And once council realizes that, councils and chairmen, that's ultimately where I think we need to go as a people. And so that's very it's a very simple way to very simple simplification of the process. And so just want to give that to the listeners. Thank you for taking my call.
Yeah, Mario, thank you for joining the conversation. Great insights. Mario, listening on KUNM, Albuquerque, New Mexico. Let's bring Jason Salzman into our conversation now. He joins us from Okmulgee, Oklahoma, where he is the press secretary for the Muskogee Nation. And Jason, in recent years, Muskogee, your people, have omitted Creek from your name. What was behind dropping that word?
Yeah, much like everybody else that's told their stories, it was about being who we are instead of what we were called. And we're Muskogee, Muskogee. That's Muskogee people in our language. We come from the Muskogean river systems and everything, Mississippian pottery, shell carvings, motifs, everything from that area. That is who we are inherently. And Creek was a misnomer coined by British colonists, and it caused confusion. And at first it called us Ocheesee Creek, so lived along the river systems and everything, and that was what they called us. But that's actually an exonym, something given to you by somebody else. And traditionally here, we don't need anything from anybody else. We get our ceremonies from the Creator. We get our language from our people and our ancestors, and we get our name and who we are right there, Muskogee Nation. And in modern times, you see our name out there. It's got Creek in parentheses, and that became confusing as well. And as we began to be more of a tribe that was front-facing and had marketing campaigns and getting our visibility up and everything like that, there would be people going, what is the deal with the parentheses? That doesn't look right on billboards. It doesn't look right on signs and everything like that. And so it became a marketing thing. But really, at the heart of it, we want to be who we are, not what we were called by British colonists. And so that was our push, the Muskogee Nation. It's cleaner, simpler, and it's accurate to who we are.
Mm-hmm. However, Jason, the BIA still lists Creek in the official title. Is there any push to officially change the name of the tribe at that level federally as well?
It does, and it also, our very first line in our Constitution is that this shall be called the Muskogee Creek Nation, with the parentheses and everything. So hasn't been changed in our Constitution, hasn't been changed at the registry. I can't speak for any push from the National Council maybe to do anything about the registry. I know that's a process, but around here with our news stations and our people and the people that put us in their newspapers and put us out there and promote us and things like that, they get it. They're realizing that we want to be the Muskogee Nation, and they're helping us out with that. But there are some, as I said, government documents, public documents that hasn't been changed yet because of the reflection of the Constitution.
And have there been any folks to say, well, you know what, I like the name Creek. I grew up referring to myself as Creek. I want to stay with Creek. Do you hear that as well?
Oh, absolutely. You know, we've got a lot of what I call Stockholm syndromers. They've sort of fallen in love with their captors. And I know that may sound inflammatory, but I just don't understand any Muskogee that would rather, that would really have this romantic, connection to Creek or whatever. But we do. We have so many people that have said, oh, I've always been Creek. And, I've always been called Creek. And it's like, yeah, absolutely. You've been called that. You are Muskogee. So there's been, and certainly we respect everybody's right to have their own preference. I mean, we've got, a national move to get rid of things like Chief Wahoo and Redskins and stuff like that. you'll still see a lot of Creeks running around here with Cleveland Indians hat on or Washington Redskins hat on with the imagery and the logo. So I'm not taking away, saying just because you're Muskogee that you have to, break away from things that, you've gotten used to. But I just think it's inaccurate. It's not right. It's what we were called. And so in that, sense, I treat it the same way that the argument is for people that will say, well, some people that are indigenous don't have any problem with mascots and things like that. I'm like, well, yeah, they may not, but that's their personal preference. But at the end of the day, it is wrong. And I don't think, just like the McGirt decision, we're not going to just continue to do things that are unlawful just because that's the way they've done them for 107 years. It's a new day. This is our tribe. We need to take control and autonomy and call each thing, like Dr. Zhivago says, call each thing by its right name.
Oh, geez, going back to Russian literature there. You go. Jason, well, this is also interesting. In addition to dropping the word Creek, you folks have launched a whole new rebranding campaign, and you even have a new logo that coincides the existing tribal seal. Tell us a little bit about that, the branding effort.
Yeah, the branding effort was really a chance to break away from just sort of monotonous government looking material and the seal. And we certainly, not anything about the seal. It's been a part of us for a long time. But we asked ourselves, what's a way that we could modernize ourselves and look, show who we are in just a symbol or something other than the governmental seal, which is sort of, like embossed on government documents and everything like that. But what could we do to sort of have a logo? And so that we started to jump into that. And there's a great rebranding video online on Vimeo. If you'll just look up Muskogee Creek Nation rebrand, you can find it, no doubt about it. But in it, we offer this great explanation of what went into the logo and the 4 directions and how that's so important, and the Mississippian motifs and the homage to the pottery of that time and what we saw in those funerary objects that we got in our most archaic materials that the nation has, and the oldest things that we absolutely have, to say what is more giving homage and tipping the cap to our absolute beginnings than that. And so we started looking through all of that, the motifs in the books and the things that our creative people were doing here, really put so much into it. And to come up with our new logo, we really loved it. It was succinct. It was something we could throw on merchandise. It was something that we could throw on signage. It was something that we could use without putting the Muskogee Nation. We wanted people to just see the symbol, see that imagery, see that motif, and know that's Muskogee.
Jason, I'm also curious to know, what have been the business implications of dropping the word Creek? Because Muskogee Nation obviously has vast economic interests in businesses in the state of Oklahoma. Do you think it helps business to go by Muskogee Nation as opposed to Creek, or hurts it, or does it make a difference?
I do. I do think that it helps. I think it removes what's the one thing that business people don't like more than anything? Confusion, uncertainty. And I think that there was just an error of confusion on the Creek. I mean, like I said, you got parentheses in there. What are we, like, whispering? And so I look at it and I go, I think the businesses have really jumped on it. Love it, because they love the logo. Any business we're working with, they, hey, what do you want us to use? We'd like you to use the logo on this. Oh, that's great. We love it. That's what we were wanting to do, but we wanted to ask you. So there remains that respect to give us the autonomy, because we still have the seal there, and it does very much represent our government. But as far as the people and the operation and the marketing and the front facing, that's the symbol. And so for businesses to recognize that, because definitely marketing professionals and people that understand what we're doing with the brand and the rebranding and the reimagining, they very much live in the business world rather than the government world. So we see it as two different worlds, and that's why they've really jumped in with us on this and embraced it, and it's been great. And I think we've seen a lot of people buy in just because of a familiarity with marketing and branding and things from that world rather than a government world.
Okay. Jason, one concern because I have this conversation at home with my wife, because we're from different tribes. We talk about our tribal names. And there's always this thought of, well, what happens if we change the name and then in 20 years someone comes along and says, no, that's the wrong name, we want to change it. Do you ever have concerns about that this could just create a precedent of just periodic name changes every 10, 50, or every generation maybe?
Man, I do, because here, I don't know about for everybody else's tribe, but here at the Muskogee Nation, man, we got a hard time coming to a consensus on things with everything. You go and speak Muskogee at an event, and you'll have 3 or 4 elders grumbling that you're saying it wrong. You tell this side of history, and you got 3 or 4 people saying, nah, that ain't it. So we do have a hard time reaching a consensus on a lot of things, because there's a lot of tributaries to this grand river of Muskogee Nation. So, I mean, we look at it as it comes with the territory, but I do have those concerns, because you're always going to have somebody that thinks that, oh, that's not right, or that's not, I mean, just a couple of years ago, we changed our license plates. We had license plates, and we do that with our tax commission. And the license plate went through a redesign, and on them included the word Hishjay in our language, which is hello. And Hishjay, they spelt the first run of them Hensci, which is more of like a Hensjay, which is almost more of a watered down modern version of Hishjay. So Hishjay is what's more spoke at sort of the traditional grounds and everything like that, whereas a Hensjay you might hear coming from more formal academic settings of language teaching. So there was a huge blowback on those license plates and everything like that, just from the little old letter N. So I say that to say that if there's something that if we can even grab onto one letter, a lot of people around here will not be able to agree on things and come to a consensus. So that's a very real concern for me, and a great question from you. And I think that anything we do, we've got term limits here. We got a lot of turnover. So a new chief could come in and say, I don't like this thing at all. We're getting rid of it. So, in 3 years, somebody might be coming on Native American Calling going, we got rid of all that stuff that they were doing. We're proud Creeks, and that's the way it's going to be. I could see that. So, yes, it's a very real concern.
All right. Thank you, Jason. I want to circle back to Jennifer Himanoki, chairwoman of the Fort Sill, Chiricahua, Warm Springs Apache tribe. She kicked off our conversation earlier today. And chairwoman, tell us more. We've got about a minute and a half before we have to wrap up. I'm going to give you the last word here, but what's in store for you and your team in terms of changing the official name, putting it on tribal business documents, and just overall citizens getting used to saying the new name?
Okay, well, so some of our official letterhead has always been recognized as Fort Sill, Chiricahua, Warm Springs Apache tribe. This is just a way of formalizing it. We've been using it since we've opened in 76 when our Constitution was finalized and approved. So we've been utilizing the full name. We just have not been updated in the federally register, or a lot of people shorten our name. So that's we're going to continue spreading the word in that manner, and also making sure that we're disseminating information to not only our tribe members, but to the public as well, to try to make sure that everybody is aware of the change.
And with that, we are out of time. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up today's conversation. But before we do that, I want to give thanks to our 4 guests who joined the show today: Chairwoman Jennifer Himanoki, Vivian Juan Saunders, Jonathan Hale, and Jason Salzman. Folks, don't forget to tune in again tomorrow. We're going to have another conversation, and we will talk about how some Native people turn to live reenactments to bring the American Revolution and other historical events to life. Don't miss it. And until then, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I'm your host, Sean Spruce.
Colleges and universities support their students in countless ways. They say I believe and offer help before it's asked.
Hear that?
Fully, give grace.
That's everything tribal college faculty do for their students on Fast Forward. Because if one tried to say it in real time, they'd be here all day. They teach, guide, comfort, and connect. And for that, the community is grateful. Learn more at mostthoroughdjobdescription.com. The American Indian College Fund supports this program.
They give extensions, cheer progress, share laughter, create calm, and allow reflection. They inspire hope, share wisdom, guide gently, validate feelings.
Who protects Indian country? Amerant does. As the only 100% tribally owned insurance carrier, Amerant helps strengthen tribal communities by providing reliable insurance coverage and keeping dollars in Indian country. From property and liability to commercial auto and tribal workers' compensation, Amerant is here to protect what matters. Celebrating 40 years of serving Indian country. Learn more at amerant.com. That's AMERIND.com.
Native America Calling is produced in the Annenberg National Native Voice Studios in Albuquerque, New Mexico by Quantic Broadcast Corporation, a native nonprofit media organization. Funding is provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting with support from the Public Radio Satellite Service. Music is by Brent Michael Davids. Native Voice One, the Native American Radio Network.
The 30th Annual Alaska Native Art Auction, celebrating Indigenous artists and voices, takes place Saturday, March 21st. Corporate sponsorship opportunities are available. Information at kmba.org.